Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Get some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hi guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James. And on my podcast, my guests and I discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. So check out our podcast. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or even on Audible. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel at Deal to Heal with E. James Podcast. Until then, see you soon. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. We believe that the relationship between a dad and daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. Our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world and give love and support to all of our dads and their daughters. Let's get to it. Let's tune in. All right. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and I believe that the relationship between a dad and his daughter is one of the most important relationships in a young woman's life. And therefore, our mission is to help to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share our podcast on all of our social media pages that the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is on. Also, make sure you guys are checking us out on our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. When you go to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network channel on YouTube, not only can you catch the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, which is the podcast that you're listening to now, but you also can check out the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, which is our partner podcast. Both of them are available on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network channel on YouTube, as well as some other podcasts that we are piloting just to check out. We do plan on bringing more podcasts. So make sure you guys subscribe to our channel on the YouTube channel so that you guys can check out the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, and all future podcasts that will be there on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. So make sure you guys check that out. I'm definitely happy to have you guys here. Our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and one of the ways that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. And so our product of the week is our Purpose Journal, as well as our Purpose Planner, because we believe that in order for us to really get the most out of our lives, we need to journal to keep track of where we've been and where we are in our lives, as well as plan for the future. And so our Purpose Journal, as well as our Purpose Planner, both are available on Amazon. Also in the descriptions, the links will be there. Make sure you check out our descriptions also, because we have amazing information in the descriptions and things that you may want to know and take advantage of. So make sure you guys go and check that out. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Justin. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, sir. How are you?
I am good. I am good. First of all, let me say thank you for being on, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners. And so we want you to I want to let you know that definitely appreciate it that you're taking out the time to be here with us. So we're going to jump right in it. Do me a favor. Introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe a little bit about what it is that you do.
Sure thing. Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Ritter. I am actually from upstate New York. I'm turning 39 in a few days.
Okay.
I'm a father to a beautiful young little girl. Her name is Cadence. She is 9 years old. Um, I currently work at a Veterans Agency Medical Center in upstate New York. It's actually one of the largest veteran agencies in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. Been there for about 7 years. My daughter does actually currently live with me. We split time with her mother. She's usually with her mother on any of the major holidays, as well as usually like Friday after school through Sunday.
Mhm.
She attends a private Christian school that I actually pay for every year. I personally believe that having God first in her life is actually incredibly important, as it should be for everybody else. Um, Couple of the things about myself. Like I said, I'm turning 39, so trying to stay as youthful as possible. Health and fitness is extremely important in my life. I do tend to work out about 4 to 5 times a week. I go on walks. I try to practice mental grounding and just going outside, getting some fresh air, things
Yeah.
like that. That pretty much about sums it up for me. Other than that, I'm just your average guy.
All right, all right. I do need to work out as much as you do. Yes, I don't, but I do walk. I do walk just about every day, and I've just got into hiking recently, and I'm
I
loving
think
that.
so.
And so that's a new thing. I'm a little bit older than you, so I'll be turning 49 in a couple of days. So look
49 years young.
for you. So it's good. It's good. So what did you? I know you said it, but what was your daughter's name again?
Her name is Cadence.
Cadence. All right,
Yeah,
cool. Cadence. Cadence. I have to make sure I ask because I always forget to ask, and then we just be
that's all
talking.
right.
And so I want to kind of take you back. Actually, before we go there, Justin, I want you to answer a question for me. What does it mean for you personally to be a girl dad?
I am a firm believer. Well, all right. So when almost 10 years ago, when I found out that my ex-wife was expecting, I actually prayed for a daughter. The reason why, I personally believe that daughters are a extremely, I don't really want to say a rare gift, but I think that the opportunity to be a father to a daughter is kind of a rare experience for men. Generally and traditionally, a lot of men like to have a son. And for obvious reasons, you can, kind of do more like similar um hobbies with them, go throw the football around, go work on a car, things like that. I'm not saying that you can't do that with girls, but traditionally men really do want sons for very obvious reasons. I'm not against that. But to me, I believe it gives you an opportunity in a little girl's eyes to be nothing short of a superhero. I'm a firm believer that when you're a father to a daughter, you can't be anything short of a superhero to them. Um, no matter what you go through, you have to show them that you're going to be strong enough to withstand whatever comes your way as well as hers. Guidance and protection is incredibly important, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So for me to be a father to a young girl, it is an exceptional task and it's a huge challenge. And personally, that's what I love about it the most.
Good, good, good. And I agree with you. And I've shared this before on the podcast. Um, we're having conversations with other fathers, and a lot of times, like you said, they do have a tendency to want a son first. you know what I mean, or a son, period. You know, not necessarily not first, but just a son, period, because we can kind of teach our sons to be smaller versions of us. You know what I mean? But
You
when
don't
we
do
have
that.
daughters, it's more of I want to teach her the best parts of me. You know what I mean? And so some of the negative traits that some of us may teach our sons because we want our sons to be just like us, we won't necessarily teach those traits to our daughters. So it
Mm,
kind of I always say our daughters bring out the best of us, and they're usually a representation of the best parts of us as fathers,
mm.
because we only really want to pour into them the best parts of us, you know, and we hold as much of the negatives um, as we can.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Okay, so we're gonna go back. I'm gonna take it back a little bit because you mentioned that that your daughter's 9 years ago you found out that you guys were expecting, and so let's talk a little bit about that. How did you find out that you were going to be a father, and also were you guys planning, the family, or did it just kind of happen?
At the time we were planning, we only wanted one. So we had agreed that we only wanted one. We wanted to be realistic. Um, I found out it was very typical. I just woke up one morning before I went to work and she just walked into the room and just showed me the positive test. Honestly, the like nothing like really, I guess, mind blowing, just very typical. Just say, hey, by the way, where it's happening. So I took it very much in stride. I actually just took it as I just kind of nodded and said, all right, well, it's in 9 months, I'm going to have quite a bit more responsibility. I'm going to be probably booked for the next 21 years. That's great. All right. That's exactly what I signed up for. So it really wasn't anything like spectacular or I guess like theatrical. It was just, she just walked in the room, just showed it to me and it was that simple. It was just that it.
Right, right. Okay, cool, cool. So did you guys wait to find out the sex of the baby to after the baby was born, or did you guys find out before?
No, she wanted to know right away, like as soon as we possibly could find out. So I was on board with that. I kind of wanted to know, and when I found out it was a girl, I was extremely happy. I was very excited for that. I'm not saying if it was a boy that I would not have been, but still, I'm just saying that's exactly what I
Mhm.
had prayed for. That's exactly what I wanted, and honestly, that's what she had wanted as well.
All right, all right. And so let's go back. So obviously, I'm assuming this was both of you guys' first child and only
Yes.
child at
Yeah.
this point. So let's go take me back to that experience. Like once your daughter gets here, it's like freshly born, either at the hospital or bringing her home for the first time. What was that experience like for you, being a first time dad and being a girl dad at the same time? Just like the very beginning, you know what I mean? Like you bring her home, this is like, all right, this is my responsibility now. Like I have this whole new life that I'm responsible for. So how was that experience with you?
She was born almost 4 weeks early. So it's pretty typical to be born about like a month early. She was born at Strong Memorial in Rochester, New York. It's a major city in Rochester. The ex-wife had some difficulties with during the pregnancy. She had I believe it was like a incompetent cervix that we had found out. So they had to basically hold the baby in longer. So the entire time was quite tumultuous leading up to the birth. After she was born, she was only in the NICU just a very short amount of time. Strong Memorial Hospital, if you don't know, in Rochester, is actually a spectacular hospital. They're one of the best ones up in upstate New York. So we were blessed. I mean, it's about a 2.5 hour drive from where I am, but we were blessed to actually be able to go there and have such a outstanding medical professionals amongst us just to reassure us, hey, this is normal, everything's going to be fine. When she had finally come home about 3 days later, it never really hit me. I just kind of was learning how to hold the baby properly, etc., things like that. And like as like a first time dad, you're kind of clueless unless if you grew up around people that have babies or if you had younger siblings. I really didn't. So um I was kind of learning everything as it went. It was never really, it never really hit me that like I had a giant responsibility on my hands until she was about 2 or 3. The reason why I don't know, that epiphany just never registered until 2 or 3 years later when I was like, hey, you know, like now the harder part. Well, so the cute stage is coming up, right? And then afterwards, the harder part's coming up. I would say I'm going through the harder parts right now as she's starting to grow. But that's pretty much all it really was. It was, I guess you can say it was just very typical, just I was a little bit clueless. I was kind of taking hints from other people and, like kind of relying on my wife at the time as well as my mom to give me the right guidance in that aspect.
Okay, okay. And so now, with your daughter being 9, definitely a couple of years under your belt. What is something that your daughter has taught you as a father?
Um, Cadence is Cadence is pure love. She is so I guess the best answer is this. Um, as we age and as I'm approaching 40 pretty soon, my life is just filled with um a lot of like underlying stress and tension. A lot of trying to circumvent, the aspects of all of the daily BS that you go through, issues at work. As I mentioned, her mother and I are separated. We are about to approach the overall divorce phase. Thankfully, it's going to be a very mutual one. We are both in full agreement on it. Not trying to get off topic, but just let you know the mother and I are actually on pretty good terms. We did battle in court for a little while, but we decided to lay down our swords in the betterment of Cadence because we saw the amount of hurt that it was causing her. So I was willing to lay down my sword, as was her mother. Her mother's name is Sarah. Her and I are actually on fairly good terms, so we can co-parent pretty well. Cadence has taught me that you don't always have to fight all the time. She's fully aware that her dad goes through a lot of stress at work, a lot of just daily stress with things changing with family. Cadence has taught me like when she wasn't here at my home, when she was with her mother a lot of the time, it was about 3 years ago. I would come home after working 12 hours, and the first thing I would do, Ernest, is I would go to her bedroom, and it was empty. She wasn't there. And the first thing I would do when I come home, without even kicking off my shoes, I would just sit on her bed, and sorry, man, I'm getting a little emotional, but I would think about, what would be the first thing she would say to me besides "Hi, Dad." Is she always said, my daughter always asked me how I am at 9. She asked Daddy, "How was your day?" And that means a lot to me, And when she wasn't here to ask that question, it was like there was something missing that I just could not. Doesn't matter what I did, going to the gym didn't fill the void, hanging out with friends didn't fill the void, girlfriend didn't fill the void, nothing. It was just the fact that my little girl wants to know how I'm doing. And
Mm.
as a father, as a man, you take on all of these battles and you just take on the world on your own. She has to see you as a superhero. But the biggest lesson that my daughter gives to me on a daily basis is that it's okay to be human. It's okay to not be okay once in a while. She's pure love, man. And I think I can speak for many fathers who have daughters that they've had moments like that, you know. But Cadence does it on a continuous basis, and I'm man enough to admit that I couldn't live without her because of that aspect. You know, when she's not here, it hurts. When she's here, everything's okay. That's the biggest lesson.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And so I wanna go to something that you said. You mentioned about um, I'll say this. Before we started recording, we were kind of having a conversation, and you talked about, sharing your story, and more so sharing a lot of your experiences, not just as a girl dad, but as a man altogether. As a father, as a just your overall experience. And then you just mentioned briefly about co-parenting, and so I want to talk a little bit about that. Having been divorced myself, and I'm glad that um, I get to share, this point of view, that you mentioned that you and your ex-wife are actually on good terms. Not my daughter's mom, right? I've been married twice, so not my daughter's mom, but my ex-wife, most recent ex-wife. We are very good friends, and most people, when you say that, they're like, "What?" Is like almost, it's like a never ending story, like something they've
Hmm.
never heard before. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I mean, we had history before we were married. Like we've known each other since kindergarten, so we've been friends our whole life. It just, when we got into the marriage part, and we were married 10 years. So it wasn't like it necessarily didn't work. It just over time, it was like, okay, it just changed, you know. But because we were very adamant about not losing our friendship, even though we were losing the marriage. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay,
Hmm.
we're going to get divorced. We already came to terms with that. That doesn't mean we can't be friends. You know what I mean? We've been friends longer than we've been married. You know what I'm saying? We've known each other, longer than we were married, And so
Hmm.
we were very adamant about not wanting to lose that. And in that space, not only was, I had my daughter's my only biological child, and she has my ex-wife has four sons, and so they were my stepsons, and so we were kind of co-parenting, each other's kids. So as step parents, one, and then as co-parenting with their biological parents at the same time. And then it can be a challenge at
Hmm.
times, but when you are able to co-parent from a healthy place, it always, makes things a little bit easier. And so you mentioned about, you and your ex-wife being able to co-parent, how is that working, should I say, and what could be any tips that you could give to our other fathers that may be listening about, things that they can do to kind of make that adjustment, to make that co-parenting just go a little bit smoother.
So, not too long ago, it was last July. Um, Unfortunately, my daughter ended up having what was called a intussusception. It was where the large intestine collapses in on itself, causing extreme stomach pain, and it does require surgery to remedy. So once again, we found ourselves up at Strong Memorial Hospital, and Sarah was there as well, as was my parents. I don't. This is something I don't want to get into too deep, but
Mhm.
because other people may end up hearing this one day, but the family aspect between my parents, myself, and my ex-wife is incredibly tumultuous.
Mhm.
Um, they very much are not on the same page for reasons I'm not really going to technically get too far
Yeah.
into, but
Right.
there's an incredible amount of tension between my family and my ex-wife. So with all of us there to support Cadence, um, here I am navigating, the issues between them because they're all there.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna make a point of this in a minute. Just hear me out. So
Mhm.
we're there at the hospital. We were rushed up there. I went up there in the ambulance with my daughter. It was like almost 1 o'clock in the morning. So we get there, and then not that it matters, but we actually had to I actually end up going twice because she went back almost 2 days after she came home. But the time that we went up there to find out what was going on, um, my mind was just warped because here I am seeing my little girl writhing in pain the entire time. And when we get up to the hospital, um, my ex-wife is there, and I'm trying to fill her in on what's going on because we still don't know what's going on. We just know
Mhm.
that our daughter is in incredible stomach pain. She was on morphine. IV drips, everything to try to get everything calmed down. Once they had found out what was going on and what we needed to do, this was our first major hurdle as co-parents. Our daughter has to have stomach surgery. Now everything ended up okay in the end, but this was our
Mhm.
first major hurdle. How did we deal with that? You know, Sarah made a point that, she had issue with my parents being there. My parents made it a point that they had issue with Sarah being there. I'm caught in the middle and I'm looking at my daughter writhing in pain. And I'm thinking to myself, what is the most important thing right now? Why are we
Mhm.
here? Is the most important thing the hurt that my parents feel against Sarah? Is the most important thing the hurt that Sarah feels from my parents? Is the most important thing, how I feel about this entire situation? No, the entire point is with your child. When you are battling in court, if your daughter is old enough to understand that mommy and daddy are not together anymore, and if she is old enough to understand that you don't like each other, then the entire battle gets focused on you against her. But your
Mhm.
but your daughter is right there, clutching her heart, thinking, why are they doing this? So we have a tendency to lose track of why we co-parent and why we need to co-parent. Many co-parents do not work out in unison or harmony simply because they can't resolve situations, whether those situations are petty or not. I'm sure that they're not necessarily petty situations, but they can't resolve anything unless if they think about how is this affecting cadence. Now, it's interesting because the reason why that she actually had a intussusception is, believe it or not, this is going to blow your mind, but the doctors even told us everything that she's going through, the stress response, she was internalizing pain. So I had to bring myself down to earth and bring my entire family down to earth and said, this is our fault. This is my fault. I had to man up and take responsibility. The battle between Sarah and I was causing our little girl so much internal pain that it actually came out from itself into an actual physical ailment.
Mhm.
So that was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to swallow as a father. And everybody around me told me, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Bull, it is my fault. Every decision that you make as a parent is your fault. And as soon as can actually understand that every choice that they make has a consequence, whether it's the right choice or not, that's why you're a dad. That's why you're a father, is you need to own up to your responsibility. My little girl was writhing in pain in a hospital because of me, not just because of Sarah, not just because of my parents, because of me, because of the decisions that I made. So that really brought me back down that everything that you do has a ripple effect on your child. So my best advice to any co-parents, swallow your pride. Because if you have a daughter and if she's old enough to understand what's going on, everything you do is going to affect her.
Mhm.
Well, my ex-wife doesn't understand. Doesn't matter what she doesn't understand. It matters what your child understands. So when you're battling in court, spending thousands of dollars on a lawyer to pin your ex to the wall, keep in mind that she's watching you do this the entire time and she's aware. And unfortunately, many little girls grow up to actually resent one of their two parents. Normally, it's the dad. If their parents break up, it's normally that they're going to turn around and resent you for that. And it's incredibly important that you maintain equilibrium in your relationship with your daughter. You need to be incredibly transparent with your child. When I left my ex, I explained, even though she wasn't old enough to understand, Ernest, I explained to her what's going on. I said, I still love you. Mommy still loves you. We are both you are so important to us and we will get through this together. Doesn't matter whose fault it is. If you don't do that, the first thing when you decide to leave, then you're doing everything wrong. And the fact that my daughter internalized pain that grew into a physical ailment that she had to have surgery for, that is something that I cannot ever get out of my head. Now, Ernest, was that my fault? Yes and no. Does that make sense? Yes and
Mhm.
no.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love everything you said, and I think the one of the most important things that you said that I agree with 100% when I'm talking to other fathers. talking about co-parenting, and it's like, what is the main objective? You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
not so that I'm right. It's not that so that she's right. It's so that we're doing everything that's in the best interest of our child. You know what I mean? And when
Mhm.
we as parents can really come to that realization, like it ain't about us no more. You know, when we got married and we had the whole wedding and all of that, that was about us. But once we had children, everything that we do, like you said, affects our children. And so it's our job to make sure that whatever we're doing, it's about the best, what's in the best interest of the child. You
Mhm.
know, and so when we can focus on that and we can keep that front of mind, then the decisions that we make as far as adults and parents, especially when we have to co-parent, is not as hard. It's definitely still going to be some hard decisions, you know, especially like how far you live apart and the weekend and schedules and all of that. Again, if you live far apart, um, it could be difficult. And just
Mhm.
co-parenting period can be difficult. But if we make the main thing, we keep the main focus on what's in the best interest of our child, it definitely makes things a lot easier when we're not tapping into, our emotions. I'm not tapping into my emotions or how I feel. You're not tapping into, or she's not tapping into her emotions on how she feel, but we're both coming to it logically and saying, how does this make our child feel? You know what I mean? And if we can keep that, uh, front and center in our co-parenting experiences, I think it'll go, they'll go a lot better and work out a lot better. Yeah.
If they can just stop losing sight of the main purpose of why you're even going through a split in the first place, which is what's best for your children. Like you said, I love what you just said. When you had your marriage and your honeymoon, that was about you. After you have the children, your entire life perspective changes. It really can't be about you. I'm not saying that you can't take some time for yourself because you
Mm-hmm.
obviously have to be a strong individual to keep going, but
Right.
it's we always tend to lose sight of you know whatever we're going through, we're not growing through with our children. That's the point, because especially if you have a young daughter, she's just going to look at this entire situation, and she looks at it from a very black and white standpoint, you know even though there are so many shades of gray that have that involve a breakup. To a child, it's very black and white. You're not with mommy anymore. That's all they think about. That's it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes, like you said, even in your daughter's case, um, whether it's from the full stress of it, but a lot of times, even outside of you being the family separating, the child sometimes internalize it also. You know what I mean? As far as, okay, how much of this is my fault?
Oh,
Because
absolutely,
sometimes they're
absolutely.
to them like they're the link between the two.
Hmm.
Yeah, daddy's married and mom was married, but I'm the one that's holding this together. And so if it's breaking apart, then what part did I play? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And sometimes our kids internalize that, and that's why I'm glad that you said even your experience of making sure that you sat down, even though she was at a young age where she probably couldn't necessarily understand the whole thing of it, but to even have that conversation to be like, look, this is what's going on with me and mom, but it's of no reflection of how we feel about you. And I think that's
Yeah.
very important because sometimes, as adults, we adult everything. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like we just come to everything with our reasoning as adults, and we forget about what it feels like to be a child and what it feels
Hmm.
like to think like a child and feel like a child when you're dealing with different, situations. Because as again we mentioned about our age, I'm finna be 49 soon. So if I'm bringing my 49 years of experience to a situation of a child who may be 9, 10, they don't have the years of experience that I have to be
Right.
able to, compartmentalize and really evaluate whatever the experience that they're having. So they have to look at it from their experience that they're able to. And sometimes we, again, as parents, have to be able to take all of our adultness out and say what's in the best interest of our child, and really, sometimes bring ourselves down to be able to look at it as the way our child is looking at it in that moment, to
Hmm.
be able to say, okay, I may, as an adult, I may see it this way, but this is the way that my child sees it. And again, if we're keeping in mind what's in the best interest of our child, then we'll be willing to do that and make those adjustments, whatever those adjustments are, for the best interest of the child.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, all right. Yeah, I'm loving this. I'm loving this. So Justin, really quick, we're gonna make a slight transition
Hmm.
into the getting to the core segment of the podcast. And the getting to the core segment is built off of a ebook that I wrote called The Four Core, which is the four core values that every daughter should get from her father. And to my audience, you guys can get your copy of the core four at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. You can get your copy of the Core 4 ebook. And so, Justin, I want to talk a little bit about the Core 4 because I wrote it because I was thinking of what is at its core. What are the four values that a father brings and instills in his daughter? And I believe that those four values at its core, now we definitely add more to the lives of our daughter, but I think at our core, we generally start with these four, and it's guidance, affirmation, love and affection, and protection. So I believe that those are the four core values that every father, should give to his daughter. And so of those four, you as a father, which one to you personally would probably be the most important to you, most important value to you to instill in your daughter?
That's that's a bit of a tough one, but I think realistically, um, I would have to go with guidance as
Mhm.
the most important. Um, I believe the reason why is because being a father to a younger daughter nowadays, I personally believe that this is actually probably one of the hardest decades to necessarily navigate because I don't really want to get into it on to like kind of go off on a tangent here, but we live in a very, very awkward time. There is so much confusion. There is so much um, irrelevance in like the school system. There's so much forms of irrelevance in society. Um, Little girls are impressionable, but they can also be incredibly confused. Not trying to in any way, shape, or form take love and affection away from that because that's probably an incredibly core principle. But I'm going to go with guidance, and here's why. As a father, um, in general, your role is not just to love unconditionally, but also to take her by the hand and navigate the correct ways in life that you personally feel are what's best for her.
Mhm.
Um, this is also a big reason why that I chose a private Christian school for her is so that she can try to be on a more stable equilibrium in her educational life as well as in her personal life, so that she can understand, okay, I'm putting God first, and I'm putting myself second, and then I'm putting the love for others third. So that's easy to navigate. So that part of my parenting is kind of in a way I don't want to say like pawned off on or taken care of, but I feel better about that. Um, Guidance as a father is one of the most important critical roles because if if a little girl is fatherless, the guidance is completely gone onto the mother. But I would really say that they can't do it the same as us. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, quite frankly, when you have a stable man who has traditional masculine values that are embedded in love and affection, that guidance really shows itself. Cadence, let me give you an example. Cadence knows that her dad loves going to the gym. Why does her dad love going to the gym? It's not for vanity, it's for health and fitness, and it's also for mental health. my little girl loves going with me. She loves going with me. She'll go hit some of those machines, put it on a lower weight, and she's watching me do the movements, and then she's copying doing the movements, and we're laughing and having a great time. That's that's a healthy form of guidance, because I'm showing her, hey, this is important to do in life, you know, um, especially when it comes to challenges. Challenges in life is something that children need to understand is a healthy thing, not a bad thing. That's where the guidance of a father comes in. One of the biggest things that I had to learn as a man growing up, that I learned later on in life, was accepting challenges and actually embracing them. I used to avoid challenges when I was younger. And if there's one thing I could change about myself, it would be avoiding challenges. I used to stay inside of a comfort zone for quite a long time. And that was a big mistake. And I'm trying to teach her that being in comfort zones is not a healthy thing to do. Now, I'm not saying to throw a bunch of challenges at your little girl at once and be like, okay, take this on, take this on, take this on, but just very carefully as you go through life and as she ages, take her by the hand and go, okay, this is going to be the next thing that you're going to go up against. This is how daddy would handle it. That's something that I personally believe is incredibly critical to the role of a father, is to guide your little girl through life, because this is a very, very hard time in life. This is a very confusing time in life. And nothing is more shameful than seeing your little girl become something that you think that she shouldn't be, And I think that it might seem a little personal, but that's definitely my best answer that I can give you.
Yeah, good, good. I love it. I love it. One more question before we get out of here. So the ebook is called The Core Four, which is the four
Mhm.
core values that every father should give to his daughter. But if there could be a fifth value that you could add, what would that fifth value be and why?
Stability. I would have to say stability. Not just stability as in like providing a roof over her head, but
Mhm.
I personally believe in some ways you should try to teach her about financial stability at a very young age. Um, get her a savings account and put some in there every week that you get paid. I believe that stability is something that the younger generation do not have at all. So I'm a millennial, and I can tell you firsthand that many, many, many millennials lack that one big fifth core value is stability. Many of us millennials are not doing very well, and
Mhm.
that's something that I want to try to have my daughter avoid, is to be stable as she grows into a woman, and having that level of stability that I can give her kind of in a passive way. Like I don't want her to grow up to give me the credit for it at all. I just want to grow up to watch her be stable and just in my own mind go, it's what I was aiming for. So my fifth is going to have to be stability for sure.
All
It's
right.
important. It's
Yes,
it's
that
really
is.
important.
I love it. I love it. I want to thank you, Justin, for being on and for sharing your expertise of fatherhood and being an awesome girl dad. I
Thank you.
want you to have the last word, and I want you to leave us with a word of advice or inspiration, however you feel. And then also, if you feel, your social media handles and things of that nature, where we can find you and kind of follow your journey. And so I'll give you a couple minutes to think about that. To my audience, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Make sure you guys are checking me out on my main website, which is the dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, because my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. And so make sure you guys are following me on the website. You can check me out as far as everything that I have going on with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, with the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, also everything else that I have going on as a speaker, as an author, to be able to come out and even to speak at your school or organization, or even facilitate a workshop. Again, if you guys go to dealhealfulfill.org, you can find all of that information on how to get me to come out and be a part of whatever it is that you got going on. Also, we talked about the Core 4 ebook, but there are also other ebooks that I've written that's available to you at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. There's the Core 4, which is the Core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father. There also is a ebook entitled From Males to Men, which is a ebook for young men transitioning into fatherhood, up to adulthood, not fatherhood. Young men are transitioning into adulthood. And there's also a ebook that I'm very proud of called Forgiving Me, the 4 Steps to Self Forgiveness. All of those ebooks can be found at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. You can go there and check that out. Also, check out our inspirational t-shirt line, where we have inspirational tees with inspirational quotes on them and messaging. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Not only do we have inspirational t-shirts, but we also have our podcast merch t-shirts, which is our podcast, our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. There's one with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast logo, as well as one with the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast logo on it. So make sure you guys go deal2healtees.com. That's deal, the number 2, healtees.com, and check that out. And last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month, talking about everything surrounding forgiveness, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world. And we just really believe that it's a very important topic to be able to relieve ourselves of the burden of carrying unforgiveness in our lives. And so you guys can sign up for our next free virtual workshop at forgivenessmission.com. And also, you can also go to Eventbrite and register for the forgiveness workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. Again, these workshops are absolutely free, but the information is priceless, and we do them every other month. So whenever you listen to this episode, either one is coming up or one just passed. So again, you can go to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next free virtual workshop. Thank you guys again, Justin. I want to say thank you, man, for being on. Thank you for sharing your story and your expertise as a girl dad. I definitely appreciate it. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Best piece of advice that I can give any other single father out there at all that is going through similar situations, whether it be a divorce or or maybe simply you're just a single father by just pure happenstance. The best piece of advice that I can give you that I had to go through myself: get up. Doesn't matter what you're doing, how much you're going through. We all we all we all carry the world on our shoulders and the burdens of everything going on in our personal lives as men. It is incredibly hard to be a man nowadays. It's one of the best blessings to be a man these days, but it's also one of the most difficult things, especially the fact that men have been kind of pushed into the background. Fathers lose in court 9 times out of 10. Seen it happen many, many times. Get up. Wasn't too long ago, my daughter had a event at her school, and I had gone through a huge fight with my family at the time, and I was just feeling down and out. And I was part of the Single Fathers with Daughters Facebook page, and I just posted on there, I was actually lying in bed. I was exhausted. I wasn't feeling well, and I said, Cadence, I think we're just not going to go today. We're just, I think it was like a little fun event thing that her school was putting on. Cadence goes, oh, all right, so she goes back to her room and plays, and I posted on there, hey, I'm just not really feeling it. My little girl's got something going on. Whoever this guy was, I don't even know who you are. I don't remember his name, but I a few minutes later, I got a messenger message And I don't even know the guy's name, but he said, "Hey, you just posted on the group." He's like, "Want to talk for a sec?" So I was like, "Sure, I'll talk for a sec." And he's like, "What's going on?" So I told him what's going on. And all he did was message me 2 words: "Get up. Get up and take her." And then he logged off. I believe, in all sincerity, that was probably the best wake up call that I had. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, Ernest, to our daughters, we are nothing short of superheroes in their eyes, and we can't be anything short of that. And at that moment, she saw her dad lying in bed, feeling defeated. This was in the midst of court battles was going on. I was just bogged down, and I couldn't take her to this little event 20 minutes down, to her school. The best piece of advice I can give any father out there. I know it's hard. And trust me, I understand that it's difficult, but get up, man. You have to. You have to do everything to your very last fiber to make sure that she is taken care of. That is honestly the best piece of advice that I can give any father out there. And also, lastly, any one of the websites that Ernest had put up here, I'm going to be visiting them myself. I think after this podcast, I want to become an active member of this community, but just know your phone has tons of information on it. Join communities if you need help. Reach out to other fathers. There are thousands of thousands strong out there that can help. That can give us the motivation and the strength to just keep going through this. I know it's not easy in any way, shape, or form. Trust me, this has been the most difficult last 3 years of my life, but kind of in a way, I've also felt like it's been the best blessing for the last 3 years of my life because I've grown tremendously as a human being, and I still have a ways to go.
All right. Definitely appreciate you, Justin. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, where our mission is to spread the voices of girl dads to the world in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. We definitely appreciate you guys being on. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast on all your podcast listening platforms. Also, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else. That the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is on the air. Until next time, be blessed.